Hello and welcome to our viewers for this webinar on dynamic product ads from onlinesales.ai and Facebook. We are onlinesales.ai and we are Facebook's marketing partners. My name is Harshad. I work as a senior data analyst at onlinesales.ai and we're very excited to have Emily from Facebook with us. And she's going to conduct the first part of this webinar where she's going to give us some insider information about dynamic product ads. So over to you, Emily.
Thanks, Harshad. I'm gonna share my screen. Facebook. I work on our product growth team within the marketing partnerships organization. So we work very closely with marketing partners like onlinesales.ai to help them adopt and scale our various ad products. And today I'm going to share with you how to drive demand and sales for your entire product catalog with dynamic ads. So just 10 years ago, the majority of online purchases were made on desktop. So you saw an ad for something you wanted to buy and you made a purchase on that same device. But shopping has changed, and particularly the introduction of mobile devices is really driving changes in the way we shop. And this is creating a lot of new challenges and opportunities for businesses. So today I'll talk a little bit about how mobile is changing these consumer behaviors and how Facebook can help you promote your products where people are actually spending their time. So as we mentioned, mobile is changing the whole sort of consumer journey and how people shop for things. And you can see from this chart that people spend more time on mobile than any other channel, about 3 hours per day. And specifically, they're spending that time in mobile apps. So almost 90% of all digital time is spent within mobile apps. And because mobile is our constant companion, it's also changing the way we discover brands and products. So more often than not, mobile is where product discovery actually starts. In fact, it's become the #1 source for product research, as you can see in this chart, far exceeding desktop computers and even stores. At over 72% of people say that mobile is their primary source. And I think it's safe to say that mobile is really the new window shopping. While mobile is our constant companion, another big change is that the online shopping journey is now fragmented across devices. So people are using multiple devices and they're switching between them throughout the day. So you can see here, almost 70% of shoppers use more than one device when purchasing a product online. So they might see an ad on desktop, they might go to the website on their tablet, and then they might actually purchase the product through an ad that they get on their mobile phone. And similarly, almost half of all shopping journeys contain a mobile touch point at some sort of point within the customer journey. But there's a lot of other challenges that are created here. And today, one of these big challenges is that today the amount of content people are exposed to is infinitely larger than any other point in history. And as a result, attention has really become our scarcest resource. So to give you a sense of this, from the beginning of time to the year 2003, humanity created about 5 billion gigabytes of information. So that's books, movies, music, emails, PowerPoint presentations like this one, photos, etc. But with easier access to data, the proliferation of mobile and digital devices, now we create that same amount of content every 10 minutes. So by the time we finish this presentation, if we talk for 40 minutes, we'll have an additional 20 billion new gigabytes of information produced. So with such fierce competition for attention, it's all about meeting your audience where they are with super relevant content to drive discovery for your brand and your brand's products. But again, achieving relevancy at scale comes with challenges that as marketers, you're probably pretty familiar with. You oftentimes will have to manually match audiences to products to increase that relevancy, which is really not scalable, and it's pretty hard to apply to an entire product catalog, assuming your product catalog has more than, even 100 or 1,000 products in it. The second challenge is that optimizing ads like this requires a lot of experimentation and iteration, which is a big time commitment, as well as a significant amount of resources. And finally, you have to be able to update your product catalog on a frequent basis, near real time, so that you can track availability and pricing changes. And that is super manual and usually pretty challenging to do at anywhere near real time. So this is where the Facebook dynamic ad solution comes into play. With dynamic ads, you can capture intent signals to automatically promote relevant products from your entire catalog across Facebook, Instagram, and the audience network. You convert these intent signals into sales. So when people visit your website or mobile app and they take an action like browsing for a product or a category or putting an item in their cart, they're expressing an intent and an explicit interest in your product. You can now leverage this interest and intent and serve people ads with the exact products they looked at according to your inventory across Facebook, Instagram, and audience network, regardless of their original touch point. So originally, when we built this solution, it was designed specifically for retargeting. So a user would have to have come to the advertiser's website and engage with a product in some capacity in order to be retargeted with an ad. But we've recently expanded that capability to what we call dynamic ads with broad audiences. So you can now leverage intent that your target audience has shown beyond your website or app to create ads to serve to people who may not have been to your website with the most relevant products from your inventory. So regardless of whether they've come to your site, audiences will now see relevant products from your catalog. So as I just mentioned, you already know that targeting your website or app visitors with products they have already shown interest in works really well. And you can now bring relevancy to your demand generation efforts without the manual work by extending the power of dynamic ads to broader audiences who have not been to your site at all, or at least not recently. So how do we create these personalized recommendations? Here's a visual example to show you how you can now leverage intent from more places. So Facebook learns about the products you sell from browsing activity on your website and your product catalog. We use that information in combination with browsing activity on other websites, including the Facebook family of apps, to predict which people might be interested in your product. So as you can see here, we can take intent from a number of different places, from what a user is doing across the web, what activities they've done on Facebook, like liking posts or visiting Facebook pages, clicking on ads, joining groups, etc. And when making these predictions, Facebook is using all of the information available to it to ensure that your products are relevant to the people who are actually seeing them. So as I mentioned, this includes people's browsing activity across the internet, actions people have taken on Facebook, and characteristics of people based on the information that they provide to Facebook. And we're really excited about this new feature. The ability to expand beyond your website or app visitors is pretty significant because it allows you the potential to scale pretty dramatically, and advertisers are seeing really great results. So you can see here, one omnichannel retailer saw an over 40% improvement in cost per click at twice the scale. An e-commerce company was seeing almost twice the scale and a 15% lower cost per registration. A grocery retailer saw their cost per acquired customer decrease by 8%, and an online retailer was able to maintain the same ROAS at 3 times the scale than if they were just using retargeting. So let's see this with an example. So Jill here is in your targeting audience. She's been narrowed down by demographic data like her age, gender, and location. She's been showing interest in shoes and on Facebook and on other places on the web. Your dynamic ads will now display shoes from your catalog to match her intent. and she may come to your site now and directly purchase. And even if she doesn't purchase, your dynamic ads will be populated based on items she browsed. So you've sort of moved her from a high funnel where she didn't maybe know about your brand, driven her all the way down. So now you can actually retarget her with dynamic ads, retargeting ads. So there's a number, besides what we call the broad audience features, there's a number of other things that are sort of in the works with dynamic ads that we're excited about and would love to share with you. So one of the main things that we are doing is sort of going dynamic in every aspect of our ads platform. So pairing dynamic ads with sort of other types of ads and objectives we've seen work really well. So one such is dynamic ads with mobile app installs. So now you can drive installs of your app with dynamic ads. So leveraging the products that your client's audience has seen on their website or mobile app, and instead of just serving them an ad with a call to action to go back to the website or app to purchase, you can actually drive them into the App Store in order to download the mobile app. And we saw an almost 50% decrease in cost per install when compared to normal app ads. And you can imagine that makes sense just because with dynamic ads, the mobile app install ads can be sort of far more relevant and personalized than a generic app ad. And how does this work exactly? So dynamic ad campaigns can now drive installs of your app to grow a base among people who are interested in your business and products. So again, you'll showcase the most interesting or relevant products from your catalog to your target audience, and then drive them directly into the App Store here to install. And then using deep linking, once they actually install the app, they can see exactly the product that they were viewing in the ad. Another sort of update that we're working on to creative with dynamic ad is what we call the fixed card, which allows you to lead the carousel with a static card about the category or promotion deals to set context for the product. So we see advertisers using this in a number of different ways, but one example would be to combine a fixed card about deals of the day, and then create a product set that's relevant to that card. So if the card is deals of the day, you create a product set of popular products that are on sale that day. And then once the user sees your ad, they have sort of that context about and a sense of urgency about what they're about to see in the carousel. We also see this used with great effect with broad audiences, where if you're sort of prospecting for a new customer, they might not be as familiar with your brand or products or what you have to offer. So you can use a fixed card to show them what your brand is all about, and generate interest in whatever is coming next in the carousel. We're also, like I said, doing a ton of work to extend dynamic ads to additional verticals. So when we launched this, the product was really designed for retail and e-commerce advertisers, but we got a ton of feedback from advertisers across a number of other verticals that they were interested in using dynamic ads to drive conversions for their business, even if they didn't sort of have a traditional product to sell, like a pair of shoes or something like that. So we have just recently launched our dynamic ads for travel solution, which is designed specifically for the travel vertical. And we'll be launching tailored solutions for autos and real estate in the near term as well. Overall, we're trying to make dynamic ad solutions more flexible so that they can adapt to any vertical's needs. And as I mentioned with mobile app installs, we're also expanding dynamic ads across objectives. So one example would be the integration with lead ads. So again, we see that the sort of hyper personalization and relevant content that you can achieve with dynamic ads drives such great results that it makes sense for us to expand it beyond the product catalog sales objective to all these other objectives like lead ads and mobile app installs. So that's sort of all the stuff we're working on, or not all of it, a small subsection of it. The other thing that I wanted to touch on before I hand it off to the OnlineSales.ai team is why work with a partner. And Facebook marketing partners are really valuable in launching dynamic ads because they can really help you adopt and scale them. While dynamic ads is a great solution to automate the promotion of your entire catalog across the Facebook family of apps, it can still be somewhat complex. And partners like OnlineSales.ai can really help advertisers onboard to dynamic ads and reduce some of the complexity of this more advanced product. So we see four main areas where FMPs can really make a difference. So the first one is feed management. This tends to be somewhat of a challenge depending on sort of the level of sophistication of the advertiser. But if you run dynamic ads with feeds on other channels like Google, often marketing partners can help you convert those feeds into the Facebook format with little legwork. Creative generation, marketing partners can source images and provide dynamic editing to manipulate the creative in your catalog to drive the best possible performance. Setup and best practices. So as I mentioned, this is a fairly complex product, and FMPs can be a huge asset when launching dynamic ads. They can guide you through the process and help you sort of onboard more easily. Marketing partners will also have access to beta and API exclusive features that can improve the performance of your ads and won't be available to the sort of general public for at least some period of time. And finally, many FMPs offer automatic optimization tools that can reallocate bids and budgets to top performing ads and the like, which again reduces the amount of manual optimization necessary to get the very best results from your campaigns. And with that, I'm going to hand it back off to Harshad, who can talk more about OnlineSales.ai's specific capabilities.
Thank you very much, Emily. And it was such an informative section. And I think the broad targeting offered with dynamic product ads is going to be a game changer going forward. So we welcome our viewers to the part 2 of this webinar. And in this particular part, we are going to look at some specific strategies to make your dynamic ads successful. So Emily has correctly and rightly covered the why part of dynamic ads. And now we are going to look at some of the how or the specific tips and strategies. If I were to summarize the rest of this webinar in just one slide, this would be it. When you create a new dynamic ad campaign, you need essentially 3 ingredients to make it successful. One is a correct updated product catalog. Second is really captivating, nice images and creatives. And third is about setting up your audience correctly and setting up your pixels correctly. So let's take a look at each of these in detail. So first, let's start with product catalog. If you are a retailer or a listing website's owner, your product catalog is like a menu card of a restaurant. You know how important it is. Since Facebook derives most of the information in the ad rendered to the user from your product catalog, it's imperative that you get your product catalog absolutely right. Put in plain English, a product catalog or feed is nothing but a file containing important information about all the products that you may want to advertise. For example, the availability of the product, the current price, the condition, the title of the product, and so on. What happens is, depending on a user's intent, the ad which is shown to the user is customized using the information from the product catalog. Looked at it this way, now we realize that your product catalog is what enables the dynamic part of a dynamic ad. Having understood this, these are, in our opinion, some of the most important points when it comes to a product catalog. One, you must update the product catalog information frequently. Facebook allows you to set up frequent uploads of your product catalog. Let us say that some information about your product, like its price, its availability, or maybe the discount that you're offering changes. You should ensure that the information is relayed to Facebook as soon as possible. Before you upload your product catalog with Facebook, it is important that you look at the feed formatting and fix any common set of errors like missing out on mandatory fields and ensure that you are uploading a right correct catalog. Last but not the least, it would be a good idea to test the landing pages or the URLs and ensure that none of them are landing on a 404 page or an error page, because otherwise you are just missing out on too much relevant traffic. Although doing this for a large size catalog is a little tough, if you work with a partner like OnlineSales.ai, we can set up your product catalog, ensure frequent updates with Facebook, and do a number of enhancements to your content all at just one click. Secondly, let's take a look at Pixel. As Emily rightly mentioned, that dynamic ads are all about capturing a customer's intent. And it all starts with your Facebook pixel. Because your Facebook pixel or the code that you set up on your website is what helps at least to capture the content of or the intent of people who are visiting on your website. For example, Facebook allows you to upload the name of the content, the category, the content ID, or the type of the content from your website. So whenever a customer is interacting with a product, you can pass on the information that, hey, look, this particular customer is browsing a running shoe. We recommend that you set up your Facebook pixels correctly on all the important sale funnel steps on your website, like customer browsing a particular product page, or maybe she is adding something to her shopping cart, or maybe the final purchase event. In all these stages, you must ensure that you're passing the correct information to Facebook. If, let's say, after launching a dynamic ads campaign, if you sometimes observe that you are not getting the right quantum or quality of traffic that you are expected, debugging your pixel setup is often the first thing that you could try out. For example, you may check if the information about the product that you are uploading from the catalog exactly matches the information that is relayed from your pixel site. We've often found that this is, although like a very small mistake, it's an annoying source of missing out on relevant traffic. If you work with OnlineSales.ai, our smart automation can ensure that your pixels are set up correctly. And even if your website changes very dynamically, if you're adding a lot of products, if the information about the price, discount is changing, we will ensure that all the information is correctly captured and any errors are captured, solved before it goes to Facebook. The next step is going beyond last viewed product. We've often found that marketing teams do not make complete use of the audience segmentation features which are provided by Facebook. Remember, not all your customers are going to respond to the same trigger. There are some customers who are maybe waiting for a price drop. There are some customers who get excited when a new product shows up in your catalog. And some customers might be looking for a complimentary purchase. Let's take an example. Let us say one of your customers recently bought an electronic gadget from your store. It might now be a good time to pitch them with a complimentary accessory for that electronic gadget. To make this happen, what you have to do is you have to set up your cross-sell and upsell on Facebook Business Manager correctly. You create a number of product sets within your product catalog, and then you map them when you create your campaigns. However, doing this is easy for maybe one or two product sets, but imagine having to do this cross-sell and upsell setup for a large catalog. In such case, you can work with us where we can take your product catalog, create a number of product sets, and use advanced recommendation algorithms to set up your cross-sell and upsell campaigns correctly. And since we talk with Facebook through APIs, we can handle the scale of your catalog very easily. Let's come to another important point, the product images. Since Facebook is such a visual medium, it's important that we get our images absolutely perfect. When we create a regular Facebook campaign, we often spend awful lot of time in getting our images right, having a quality that reflects our brand values, so on and so forth. But in case of dynamic ads, the final image in the creative is taken from your product catalog. And the attention that we were so far paying to getting one image right, we have to kind of move to getting all the images in our product catalog right. The images in the catalog must be focused, they must be sharp, they must be on a non-intrusive background, and they should be highlighting your product offering clearly. So we have shown you some examples here on the screen. What we have seen is that having the right image often gives you an uptick of about 20 to 25% in your click-through rates. Another interesting thing is, if even if you're updating your product catalog frequently, but you're using the same old static image for each product, then you're not just cutting it. What you may want to do is, for the same product, you may want to try out a different background color, or maybe a different zoom setting, or a different frame and angle, and you can keep A/B testing at an individual product level till you get it right, till you get the right CTR on that product. This is another interesting out-of-the-box idea. A lot of times, retailers have different shots of the same product, shot in different angles on their website. What you can do in such cases, you can create maybe a collage of that product, combining different views of that product and include a link to the collage image rather than the original static image. We've often found that in case of newsfeed placement on dynamic ad, this gives you a huge boost in click-through rates. Just to recap what we have seen so far, that for a dynamic ad to be successful, you need the right product catalog, the captivating images, and the right audience selection. And all this has to work at scale of your product catalog. Beyond the three axes that I mentioned in the stock, there are a few other tools that we have available with us, like automatic bid and budget recommenders, and few tools on the creative side. So if you're interested in finding out more about these tools, you can surely write to us. So with this, the main content of this webinar comes to an end. Interestingly, we also have few questions coming in. So I'll maybe throw up the first question to Emily. So Emily, some of our viewers want to know that on dynamic ads, they often find that their audience size is zero. So how do they handle such case?
Sure. So that's a fairly common case, and there can be several reasons for your audience size showing up as zero. But a couple things to check.
Okay.
So the first one I would say is check the retention time that you're looking at. So if your audience size is really small and your website doesn't get a ton of traffic, you might want to expand that retention window. So rather than limiting to people who have visited your website in the past 2 weeks, expand that out to a month or even 180 days. So you're making sure to capture as many website visitors as possible. The second thing I would say is to check the size of the product set. So as you guys know, and as Harshad just went through, you can create product sets, subsets of products within your larger catalog, and you want to make sure that that product set is big enough. So again, if you're retargeting people, you're only going to have an audience as big as the number of people who have actually looked at those products within the product set. So if it's a really small product set, you can imagine the audience is going to be small. And finally, and sort of the place where frequently, I would say is like the most frequent source of issue is the pixel. So you want to check and make sure that the pixel is firing correctly on all the sort of standard events: search, view content, add to cart, and purchase. And you can check this by visiting the corresponding product page and checking that the pixels have fired with Facebook's pixel helper. And you also want to compare and make sure that the content type that you're passing in the pixel and the content ID matches what's in your catalog. So again, if you're firing the pixel, but we can't match what's firing the pixel to what's in the catalog, we're not going to be able to understand actually who's looking at what products and how to retarget them. So those would be sort of the three areas that I would check out.
Right. The next question that came in is about objective. What is the objective I need to set up for dynamic ad campaign? So I'll take that one. In our opinion, the best practice is to choose product catalog sales with conversion as the goal or the objective. If you are a retailer where the number of final transactions are not large, you may want to start with tracking the cart additions or add to carts first, and then once your campaigns gain enough traction, then you may switch to conversions. Okay, let's look at another one. So Emily, this one is for you. So people often face problem where they upload a feed and then there are errors. So how do they troubleshoot feed upload errors?
Sure, that's a great question. So uploading feeds can be fairly complicated because there are a number of fields that are required and sort of certain formatting. So the best place to start is to sort of take a look at the required catalog fields to make sure that your feed contains all of those required fields. Important to note that column names, like all the headers, have to be in English. Within the Facebook UI, you can take a look. When you upload a feed, we will provide sort of both a set of warnings and errors. So warnings are not blockers. These are just sort of best practices that we recommend that you implement in order to get the most out of your ad, but they won't prevent your ads from serving. When you actually get an error within the feed, that'll prevent the product from being uploaded and ads being served. So other things to take a look at in the currency column, you don't want to use symbols there. You actually have to use currency like USD or EUR as opposed to the $ or the euro sign. You want to check and make sure that the image URLs in your catalog link out to high quality images that are appropriate for Facebook. And if you're planning to run on Instagram, there are sort of secondary requirements there. So there's a number of, I think it's hard to get super specific without knowing what the errors are, but you should rely pretty heavily on what Facebook is telling you. And if you work on another platform like Google, the feeds are designed to be compatible with Google Shopping ads. So if you see issues there, like definitely let your partner know and let us know, but rely pretty heavily on the errors and warnings that you see within the UI.
Thanks, Emily. That makes perfect sense. So I'll move on to the last question, maybe because we are running short on time. People often find that their spends are going to unwanted products and how to tackle that. So actually, it's quite simple. You have to ensure that you're matching 100% of your product IDs in the catalog. And secondly, your purchase event should be firing correctly on all product IDs. Let's say you have a product A, which is not getting enough spends as per your logic or as per the data on your side. What you can do is you can ensure that the number of conversions that you see on your platform are matching exactly with the Facebook pixel numbers. If your pixel is not set up correctly on the purchase event, that particular product sales is not getting tracked correctly, and that is why Facebook is not optimizing that product. What we have found is that if your pixel is set up correctly and you're matching 100% of the product IDs in your catalog, Facebook's optimizations just work perfectly and there is nothing to bother, right? So as long as you have the setup correctly, the issue of unwanted spends shouldn't bother you much. So I think with that, we come to an end of this webinar. If you have more questions, feel free to write us in this email conversations@onlinesales.ai, and we would be happy to answer your questions. And thank you, Emily. Thanks for joining us today. And we are very excited about the new features that you highlighted in Dynamic Ads.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you, viewers.